Imagine stumbling upon a tied-up millionaire in the forest, but you're the homeless kid everyone would blame. Would you run, or risk everything to save him? A homeless black boy drags a sack of firewood through the forest, crying, starving, alone, until he finds something that makes his blood freeze. A wealthy white man in a bright blue suit, blindfolded, beaten, and tied with rope. One wrong move and the boy becomes the prime suspect. But if he runs, the man will die. What the boy does next pulls police, an ambulance, and a kidnapping ring into the open. And when the millionaire wakes up and points at the child, the whole world expects blame. But he says something no one saw coming. Wait, before we reveal that shocking moment, drop a comment right now. What time is it where you are, and where are you watching from? Let's build this community together on TaleVerse Studio. Let's dive in. The boy's name was Kofi. 9 years old, black, homeless in town. Nobody said, Kofi. They said, hey, or move, or worse. Get off my steps, the baker shouted that morning when Kofi hovered near the warm smell of bread. You scare customers? I'm not scaring anyone, Kofi pleaded, voice thin. I need one small loaf. I'll pay. I'm selling wood. The baker stared at Kofi's ripped dark gray t-shirt, holes at the chest, the belly, then at Kofi's bare feet and dirty knees. You'll steal. I won't. You will. The man slammed the door halfway. Go beg somewhere else. A man passing by muttered, always them, always trouble. Another kid flicked a pebble at Kofi's ankle and laughed. Kofi swallowed his anger because anger got you hit. He lifted his burlap sack, already heavy with sticks, and walked back toward the forest like it was the only place that didn't hate his face. That sack was his job. Sticks meant firewood. Firewood meant coins. Coins meant food. If he didn't fill it, he didn't eat. He kept his head down as he worked, snapping dry branches, stuffing them in until the strap cut his shoulder. He talked to himself the way he'd learned to survive. Don't go near strangers. Don't go near the old camp. Don't go near. Then he heard breathing that didn't belong. Not birds, not wind. A wet, shallow rasp like someone was trying to pull air through pain. Kofi froze, his fingers tightened on the sack strap. Who's there? He called, already scared. I don't have anything. No answer. Just that rasp again. Closer than it should be. Kofi took a step, then another. Leaves crunching under his feet. A flash of bright blue cut through the brown forest floor. A man lay on his back, white, middle-aged, expensive. A bright blue suit, white shirt, red tie. Wrong for the woods, wrong for the dirt. Thick rope pinned him down in tight loops, wrists bound, ankles bound. A white cloth blindfold covered his eyes, pulled so tight it creased his skin. Blood stained his cheek. Bruises swelled his face. Kofi's stomach dropped so hard he gagged. No, he whispered, tears rising. No, no, no. This was the kind of thing that got blamed on the first poor kid found nearby. But here's the moment everything hangs on. Would you stay and help, knowing you'd be the suspect, or would you run to save yourself? Think about that while we continue on TaleVerse Studio. Kofi could already hear the voices. Why were you here? Why are your hands on him? Where did you get the rope? Kofi stumbled backward, shaking. I didn't do it, he said out loud like the trees were police. I didn't. The man's chest moved barely. A tiny groan pushed out. He was alive. Kofi stared at him, crying now, helpless and angry at the same time. Why are you dressed like that? He snapped, voice cracking. Why are you here? You got money. You got a suit. Why? Why are you lying here like trash? The man made another sound, mouth dry, lips split. Kofi hugged his sack like a shield. Every muscle in him screamed, run! If he ran, he stayed alive. If he stayed, he became the suspect. But the man's breathing hitched, and Kofi saw the blindfold riding low, pressing near the nose. If it slipped, the man could choke. Kofi crouched, staying a hand's length away. Sir, he whispered, can you hear me? No clear answer, only pain. Kofi wiped his face with the back of his hand, smearing dirt across his cheek. Listen, he said fast. If I touch you, they'll say it was me. They always say it's me. They see my skin and they decide. His voice dropped. But if I leave you, you die. He leaned closer, trembling, and tugged the white cloth up just a little. Just enough to free the nostrils. The man sucked in air like he'd been underwater. Kofi jerked back, hands up. I'm not hurting you. I'm helping. I swear. A hoarse whisper scraped out. Water. Kofi's throat tightened. I don't have water, he said, frustration breaking through. You think I got water? I got sticks. That's all I got. He looked around wildly. No phone, no adults, no signal, just trees and danger. Okay. He grabbed the cleaner corner of the burlap sack, ran to a small puddle, scooped muddy rainwater, and squeezed drops onto the man's lips. Not much, but the man swallowed. Kofi examined the ropes. Thick, real knots. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. The rope across the man's chest was so tight the suit fabric creased and pulled. Kofi pressed 2 fingers under one loop and felt how little space there was. You can't breathe right, he muttered, shaking. You can't. He tried the knot with his fingernails. It didn't move. He tried again, tears falling onto the blue suit. Please, he whispered. Not to the man, to the rope. Please, just give me a little. The knot shifted a fraction. Kofi pulled carefully, loosening one loop just enough to slide 2 fingers under. The man's chest rose a little freer. Kofi exhaled hard, almost sobbing. That's all, he said. That's all I can do without a knife. He looked at the bruised face, the blood, the blindfold. Who did this to you? He demanded. Talk. Tell me so I can tell them. Tell me so they don't point at me. The man's mouth moved. A broken sound. They took. What? Kofi snapped. Money? They took your money? You're rich, right? People like you got money everywhere. Another groan. No words. Kofi's fear surged again, sharp as a blade. Listen to me, he said, leaning close. I'm going to run for help. I'm going to bring someone, but you have to do one thing. He swallowed. When they come, you tell the truth. You hear me? You tell them I didn't do this. You tell them I saved you. The man gave a faint sound. Maybe yes, maybe pain. Kofi slid his burlap sack under the man's head to lift it off the ground. He did it gently, like the man might shatter. Then he stood, legs trembling. He took 1 step away, then turned back, voice breaking. Don't die, he whispered. Please don't die. If you die, they'll blame me. And even if they don't, I'll know I left you. He wiped his eyes, forcing air into his lungs. I'm going now. Stay alive. Then Kofi ran. He ran through leaves, through thorns that tore his ankles, through fear that felt like hands around his throat. He didn't look back. When he hit the road, he saw a truck and threw both arms up, screaming until his voice cracked. Help! Please! There's a man in the forest tied up. He's bleeding. A car slowed. Someone shouted. What did you do? Kofi screamed back, shaking. I didn't do it. I found him. Please just come. And he kept yelling because this time silence would kill them both. The first driver wouldn't step out. Window cracked, voice sharp. Where's the man? Kofi pointed, sobbing. In the forest, blue suit, rope, please. You touch him. No, Kofi yelled. I found him like that. I only lifted his head and pulled the cloth so he can breathe. The driver stared at Kofi's torn dark gray shirt and bare feet. Don't run, he warned, already deciding what Kofi was. He dialed emergency. More cars stopped. A woman whispered, call an ambulance. Another man added, and police. Kofi flinched. Please, I didn't. But adults were already pushing through the trees, following the crying kid they didn't trust. They found the man sprawled on dry leaves, bright blue suit, red tie, thick rope biting his chest, white blindfold knotted tight. Blood dried along his cheekbone. One adult swore, this is a kidnapping. Sirens arrived fast. Paramedics rushed in first, cutters ready. Police followed, hands hovering near cuffs. An officer seized Kofi's wrist. You stay. Kofi jerked, terrified. I brought them. I brought help. Where'd you get the rope? I don't have rope. Then why are you here? Because he was breathing, Kofi screamed, voice cracking. Because nobody else was. The officer tightened his grip. Watch your tone. A paramedic knelt over the man. Sir, can you hear me? She cut the blindfold enough to free his eyes. The man blinked, swollen eyelid trembling. Bruises purpled his face. Kofi choked out. They beat him. The paramedic slid fingers under a rope loop. We need to loosen this. The man coughed, throat raw. Water. Name. the paramedic pressed. Grant, he rasped. Grant Halden. A police radio crackled. Another officer stiffened. Halden as in Halden Capital? The rude officer's hand loosened on Kofi without meaning to. Grant's gaze drifted, then snagged on Kofi like an anchor. Where is the boy? He's here, an officer said. We found him with you. Grant forced air through pain. He saved me. Silence. Then the rude officer snapped. Saved you? How? Grant swallowed. I was already tied. Blindfold was sliding. He pulled it so I could breathe. He lifted my head. He ran for help. Kofi sobbed hard. Say it again, please. The officer let go of Kofi's wrist like it burned him. Okay. They rolled Grant toward the ambulance. Another officer blocked Kofi. Parents. I don't got home. Kofi stared at the dirt. Nowhere. Then you're coming until we sort this. Kofi's panic exploded. No, he just said. Grant lifted his head, fighting the stretcher straps. Don't hold him like that, he rasped. He's a child. Sir, stay still, the paramedic warned. Grant looked straight at the officer. Call my lawyer, Maya Rios, now. Yes, Mr. Halden, the officer said instantly. At the hospital, the story came out in pieces. Grant had been inspecting land with a driver and one security guard. A black SUV cut them off on a dirt road. Two masked men dragged Grant out, blindfolded him and tied him tight. They wanted access codes, bank tokens, phone passwords, names of accounts. When he refused, one slammed his face into the SUV doorframe. That's why he bled. That's why the bruises bloomed. Grant fought the ropes until his wrists burned numb. Then the kidnappers argued. Grant heard a shout, a gunshot, tires spinning. They dumped him in the woods still bound, hoping exposure would finish the job. Kofi waited outside the room, guarded, stomach empty, hands shaking. A nurse passed and muttered, "Poor baby." But nobody asked if he'd eaten. Hours later, Grant appeared in a gown, bandaged, one eye swollen shut. He walked to Kofi anyway. Kofi shrank. You rich? They listened to you. Please tell him I didn't do it. Grant's voice was low, steady. I did. You're cleared. Kofi blinked, not believing. So I go. Grant looked at his bare feet. Go where, Kofi? Kofi's mouth opened. No answer came. Grant crouched, wincing. Why didn't you run? Kofi's anger trembled through his tears. Because you was breathing. Because if you die, they blame me. Because nobody comes for kids like me. Grant's jaw tightened. Someone came today. You, Kofi whispered. What you want from me? Grant shook his head. Nothing. I owe you. He turned to the officers. Write it clearly. This boy rescued me. He is not a suspect and he needs protection. These men may look for a witness. An officer nodded. Child Services will place him. Grant's eyes stayed on Kofi. Not a place where he disappears. My counsel will file emergency guardianship. He will have a safe home, school, medical care, no interviews, no cameras. Kofi flinched. You're going to buy me? Grant breathed out. No, I'm going to stand where nobody stood for you. Kofi stared at him like it hurt. People don't do that. Grant's voice cracked once. You did. Kofi's shoulders dropped. For the first time in years he wasn't running. He just breathed slow, like the rope had finally loosened around his life too. The detective came that same night. Mr. Halden, we found your driver, she said, alive, shaken. Grant's good eye sharpened. And the gunshot. It wasn't random, she answered. Your security man, Dwayne, fought back. Dwayne had been shoved into the SUV with his hands zip-tied. When the kidnappers stopped to argue about passwords, one of them dropped his pistol onto the floor mat. Dwayne kicked it under his heel, snapped the zip tie against the seatbolt until it split, then lunged. The shot he fired tore through the open door and hit the driver in the shoulder. That was the gunshot Grant heard. Panic, not execution. The kidnappers crashed into the trees, dragged Grant out and dumped him bound, thinking Dwayne would bleed out. He didn't. He crawled to a service road and flagged a farmer, giving police the SUV's partial plate and the tattoo he saw on the shooter's neck. By morning, detectives traced the vehicle to a stolen rental, then to a motel off the highway. One kidnapper showed up at an ER for the shoulder wound. He lied. The nurse didn't buy it. Police were waiting when he limped out. They arrested both men before sunset. When the detective told Grant, Kofi whispered, "So they can't come for me?" Grant squeezed his shoulder gently. "No, not anymore." They found the rope and Grant's watch in the room, plus his blood on the steering wheel. The case was clean. Kofi finally exhaled for once. Now the rude officer stepped closer, throat working. "Kid, I grabbed you wrong," he said, eyes down. "I'm sorry." He tried to hand Kofi a wrapped sandwich from the nurse's station. Kofi hesitated, then took it with both hands like it might vanish. Grant watched him eat 2 bites and said, "Tomorrow you'll have a bed. Tonight you're safe. I promise." A clerk arrived with forms. Grant signed with a shake of hand and spelled Kofi's name twice slowly, so it couldn't be erased easily anymore. Would you have run or stayed to save a stranger when everyone would blame you? Comment below what you would do. Hit like if Kofi deserved a second chance. And subscribe to TaleVerse Studio for more grounded, emotional stories where one brave choice changes everything.